I honestly don't think I've ever seen a woodpecker in the wild this close before. I am out back behind my house in a spot where I used to hang out as a kid. I vlogged here before once on an old tree fort that I'm honestly a little afraid might just collapse in on me. I also lost a flip-flop down there, so let's hope I can get down safely. Anyway, good evening, Islanders. It is fairly late in the day. I wanted to talk today about an article I read. So it was a New York Times Sunday opinion piece, and I'll put a link to it in the description. But I found it on Reddit, and there was a big discussion going on there about it. Anyway, the article, if you haven't seen it already, talks about how algebra is not really necessary in education anymore. One of the first things I learned in my college preparatory English class in high school this year was when reading an article or a story or anything, I always get a little bit of background on the author and the circumstances when the article was written. I feel like one of the most important things to note here, and it even mentioned it in the article, is that the author is a political scientist and writer. Now, while it doesn't discredit the piece entirely, I find it a little strange to hear a non-mathematics professor talking about why we shouldn't be teaching mathematics. Or rather, not mathematics in general, but just algebra. One of the main points of the article is that algebra has no immediate practical applicability. And while it is a valid concern, I don't think everything that is taught to students needs to or should have an immediate practical usage. Now, algebra does actually have practical usage, more so than like calculus or even trigonometry. I think a bigger concern is how math in general is taught in schools. I don't know what it was like for you guys, but for me, I was kind of introduced to algebra in a gifted and talented program in like 5th grade, and I did not get it. I didn't really actually get algebra until late middle school at the earliest, and admittedly a large part of my mathematical understanding came from learning to program in 6th grade. I have 2 younger siblings that were in 6th grade this past year, and the year before that, when they were in 5th grade, they started hardcore algebra. And by hardcore, I mean harder core than I had it in 5th grade, and I was in the gifted and talented program. Except it wasn't called algebra, it was called math sentences, and it was about filling in x's and balancing things and solving for a variable, but they did not discuss that it was a variable. They did not discuss what they were doing. It was just straight up weird crap. I kind of agree with the article on some points in that some kids just aren't ready or just do not understand algebra, and their talents are better used elsewhere. That is probably right. But I don't think teachers and students should just say, I give up, I no longer want to try this. I think it's useless and boring and dumb, and I think that's kind of a stupid, boring, and dumb way to look at things. The article also talks about math requirements in colleges across the nation, and I think that is frankly less of a problem. I think that if you make the choice to go to college and get a bachelor's degree in any sort of rigorous field of study, there should at least be some measure of well-roundedness to that degree. All in all, the world will only get better if we talk about it, though. So that's what I would like you to do this week. Please read the article and discuss your thoughts and how you feel about mathematics in schools. Maybe share some experiences that you've had. Anna, I'm glad you enjoyed Batman. You're right, you're absolutely correct. I need to see it again, but I probably will not for several years, at least, because that's just how I am. And to everyone, DFTBA.